Welcome to Fed Renaissance. If you're a former federal employee trying to figure out what's next, start a new business, or looking to remake yourself, you're in the right place. There's no need to walk this road alone. So many former feds have already generated their own success, so why not learn from the paths they've already traveled? I'm your host and federal government alum, Brandon Cory. Fed Renaissance exists to help make you successful and to support your journey of personal and professional self-discovery. Former feds are a formidable force. Come join the movement. Greetings, everyone. Welcome once again to the Fed Renaissance podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Cory, and I am delighted today to be joined by Abraham Grungold. Like many of you, Abraham is, it goes by Abe as well, by the way.
Yes,
So if you
yes,
call
I
him Abe,
do.
not all, I was thinking earlier, not all Stevens go by Steve. So I did have to confirm that. But we're delighted, Abe, that you're with us today. For the audience, just so that as audience members, Abraham, like many of you, is a former federal employee and has started his own enterprise, which we're going to dive into here a bit today. So, Abe, thank you again for joining us. And maybe you could just dive in, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe starting with your federal career and what you're doing now.
Sure. Brandon, thank you very much for having me on today. It's a real pleasure and honor. And I hope to provide federal employees with some worthwhile information. So I was a federal employee for 36 years, and my career began back in 1985. I was with the Department of Labor. I was a field investigator, and I did investigations of large-scale retirement plans and health and welfare plans. Some of the largest pension plans in the country, I looked at some of them, and I was in the Boston area. That's where I started my career. From then, I went on to the VA Inspector General's office in the Boston area. And at the VA, I did large-scale financial audits. I did some congressional inquiries and other types of small financial and investigative investigations, projects. So I would also assist the law enforcement side of our office. I was in the audit section, and I would assist the law enforcement side if they had any financial records to look at. So from there, I went on to the Department of Justice, United States Attorney's Office. Originally, I had gone to school in Miami, so I wanted to relocate from Boston to Miami. I decided to take this position, and I was an auditor with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami, doing large-scale qui tam investigations and other types of, they were called affirmative civil enforcement investigations.
I used a term there that I certainly don't know. Maybe others might not as well. Qui tam, I think you said. Can you explain what that is?
Qui tam is a Latin term for who on behalf of the king. It's a term used in the legal world where you would file a whistleblower case, and they're called qui tams, and they're really whistleblower cases, and they would be brought before the government, and the government would take a look at them. And they could be healthcare related, they could be contract related, and those were the investigations that I would work on. Very large scale investigations. I remember we had settlements in the hundreds of millions of dollars when we would settle a case. And I wouldn't mention any company now or anyone that we had investigated, but many of them, again, when we settled, they would be in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Is it safe to say, out of curiosity, that these would have been news headlines that we might have seen back in the day without mentioning anybody
Yes,
specifically, or were
yes.
they, yeah?
I could mention one. Columbia HCA
Hmm,
was a $642 million Medicare settlement back around, I think it was around 2000. And I
okay.
worked on that in a small way, a piece of it that I worked on in the Miami area. But they had a national case that got a $642 million settlement.
And out
So,
of and out of curiosity, and maybe I should have gone back just a little bit further. This is obviously very high level financial accountability type stuff. What qualified you in your own background to even obtain this position to
okay.
begin with?
Well, I had a very interesting background. I had four college degrees. Um, I had a degree in science, a degree in health management. I had a degree in accounting, and I also had a master's degree in business and finance.
Um, can you give us some idea of how you began to transition your thinking? Uh, did you leave pre-retirement? Did you go ahead and retire? And how did that transition into your quote new life and what you're doing now? Maybe unpack that a little bit for us, if you would.
It's actually an interesting question. For me, it was a situation where I was working for the government, and I was the type of guy who would read everything that came across, your desk. You get something and it goes to 25 people in the office, and you check it off and you pass it off to the next person. I was actually the guy who would read it and pass it on to the next person. So a lot of what I did was related to retirement plans and benefits. I understood that through working at Department of Labor, everything about pension plans and employee benefits. So I had that knowledge. Now, I also would listen to the Federal News Radio Network. And there was a guy that I admired, Mike Causey. And Mike Causey worked in the Washington area. He had a column, and he would write about federal retirement, federal benefits. And I would read everything that he was writing or doing and listening to him. And I actually reached out to him one day, uh, and I don't mean to brag, but I had become a TSP millionaire, and I reached out to him and I let him know how long it took me to become one and what I had done to get to that financial goal. And he asked me to write some pieces for him on his column, and I would do that. And then he would ask me to write about some other government employment issues, and I would write something for him. And then he had me on the show one day. He had me on the show as a guest, and we talked about the TSP. And then the light bulb sort of went off in my head. If this guy feels that what I have to say is important, maybe I can develop a business and help other federal employees reach their financial goals, help them to figure out when it is to retire, help them with any employment situations that they're faced with, and make a business out of it. And that's what I did while I was working for the government.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I started my business in January of 2019. So I've had my business 7 years.
Hey, you got it started right in time for the COVID crash. That's amazing.
It's funny you say that. I was actually so busy during COVID, and I was so busy during my early years starting my business because I was getting my name out there, not just on the Federal News Network, but I was doing some writing for other media columns, and I developed my own website, and I was getting known by people. People were listening to me, and I really started to generate a lot of work. And what was happening was I was working my full time job with the government and traveling. I traveled quite a bit with the government.
Yeah.
And I was working probably 20 hours a week on my own business.
Wow.
Now, my wife wasn't too happy about that. She was telling me, "You're working too much." And I said, "Look, I don't know how long this is going to last. Maybe, I may not be interesting to people after a while. I don't know what's going to happen the next 6 months or a year." So it continued for a couple of years, and then,
This
yeah,
is a more of a human interest question, but how are you
yeah.
feeling about the work at that time? It was like, oh, this is a moneymaker, I can do this, or was it more of like a passion project and you're driven by passion and enjoyment?
That's what it was. It was
Yeah.
a passion. I was just really happy people were reaching out to me for help, and I had to charge them something. Otherwise, I would have been inundated with thousands and thousands of phone calls and emails. So, my prices are really very low compared to my competitors in the industry because I want to make it available for every federal employee who can afford to hire me. And my fees are really just to cover my expenses, and that I can stop the flow of people contacting me and say, "Look, I do have to charge you something."
Sure, sure.
I hate to say, a lot of people just want free advice, and I always give people, one question. If you have one question, uh, contact me and I'd be happy to answer it. But one question usually goes to three, four, five, six questions. And that's really where you need to have a session
Right,
with me, and I'd be glad to answer all of your questions.
right.
But as I said, answering your question, it was a passion of mine. I was thrilled that people were contacting me from all walks of the government, from all positions, and from all areas of the government from across the country. And I even had clients who were international clients. So I had clients internationally as far as Japan. That was
Wow.
the one that I had the furthest away. And I was very, very happy that I was getting this attention. And at one point, my wife said to me, "Look, you've worked with the government 36 years. I started having some health issues." And my wife said, "Why don't you just, retire?" And I was working 20 hours a week on the business, my own business. So I said, this might be the right time. So I wanted to go to 40 years of federal service. I ended up with 36. I'm very proud of that. And I am proud of the work that I had done as a federal employee. So I found that in 2019, it was the right time for me to retire.
Right. And,
Actually, I'm sorry. I'm
mm,
sorry. Let me correct myself, Brandon. I'm sorry
sure.
to interrupt you. I started my business in 2019. I retired in February of 2022
Gotcha. Okay, that
after
makes sense.
COVID. After
So there was
COVID.
some overlap there.
Yeah.
And You touched on something that was interesting. It was one of my questions initially anyway, business validation. And that question would have gone something like this, but you answered part of it. It would have said, Abraham, clearly you got lots of experience in this, you got the capability. Uh, a lot of people frankly doubt themselves too. Who am I to think that I could yada yada? Who am I to think that I could go out on my own in a given sector? And switching that around, you could have said, who am I, Abraham, to go out on my own and do this when there are, these big financial advisement firms, and there are firms around the DC area that specialize in government employees already, things like that. Obviously, the Federal News Network thing, that was a big clue. Did you need anything more than that for business validation? Or based on that, it was that what it took for you to start sort of putting your toe in the water, so to speak?
That's very good. That's a good question. And the answer to that is I did a lot of research of who are my competitors, who else is doing what I'm going to be doing in the private sector. And I did not find many uh, people who were former federal employees doing this type of work. Uh, some of them would say, yeah, I was a federal employee, but they would never really delve into what they were doing or how many years they served in the government. And they were one or two, yeah, they had the credentials, and they were within a larger organization. They were part of a larger organization. I'm a one-man shop. When you call my business, I answer the phone. When you call someone else, you're going to have to go through 2, 3 layers to get to that person. And are they available? No, when you call my number, I answer the phone or I get back to you pretty much that day, unless I'm out of town. So I felt that I could make a difference, not just making a business, but being able to reach out to federal employees. And it didn't matter if they were a government appointed federal employee or they were working for the Postal Service federal employee. Any federal employee at any level have taken advantage of me, have contacted me, and have utilized my services. And I have testimonials on my website. I don't know how many testimonials I have, maybe 60 or 80. And everyone has, really praised me up and down. And I'm happy for that because I want the client to come back to me, and many of them do. They come back to me over and over during their federal career and after they retire. They contact me. So I have had some clients who have reached out to me periodically for the past 6, 7 years, and it's really good to know that they're satisfied with my service and that they can afford to reach out to me periodically. So I was kind of shocked in the beginning uh, when a lot of them would say to me, are you going to be in business for a long time, or is this like a 1 or 2 year deal and you're going to disappear? I said, no, I'm going to be here.
Yeah,
And they said, I'm looking for someone that I can reach out to once or twice a year. And I
right.
said, well, I'll help you with whatever it is that you need. And that really kind of surprised me when I was first starting the business. Um, I thought maybe after one session that really I took care of whatever it is they needed. I wasn't really expecting to hear back from them, but I had many clients who brought this to my attention about follow up, and what are my fees for follow up, and
Right.
et cetera.
Well, it's interesting in this particular field, it finances are lifelong, like health. You get a general practitioner on the health side that you like, and you want them to walk the journey with you, not just the one-time thing, but hey doc, you remember last year when I was totally healthy? Well, now I have this pain that's kind of bugging me, and they start to get that medical history and they're like, yeah, I kind of know your story now. And I'm sure you've got many, many stories already sort of down pat. One thing that's unique to your profession that I'm curious about is the fact that it is very regulated, or it can be very regulated, depending on how deeply you go into it and what flavor of advisor you choose to be. Did you choose to get any additional certifications? Were there unique hoops to what you do that you had to jump through on the regulatory side, or can you give us some sense of what that looked like?
Okay, so basically, at one time, I was a registered SEC financial advisor. I didn't want to maintain that because of the cost of maintaining it and the continuing education. So I dropped that some years ago. What I do is I help federal employees and other people with uh, their retirement or financial decisions. I don't tell them what to do. I give them options. You could do A, B, or C, and C may be nothing. You don't have to do anything, but I always give them a number of choices, regardless of what it is that they need help with. Now, I am not a fiduciary. I am not handling anyone's money. I do not make transactions for anyone where you send me $10,000 and I invest it for you. I do not handle any type of funds. So I don't have any fiduciary obligations. Uh, I am basically a consultant. I'm a financial counselor who helps people and provides them with options. It's just like you go to a therapist. The therapist is not going to tell you what to do. They
Right.
tell you how to deal with things. They tell you, you could choose to do A or B, or you could choose to do nothing.
Is it safe
So
to say that it's kind of like maybe even financial mentorship in a way?
it's a little bit more than that. I mean, I have to give them sound financial options. And I'm not telling them what to do, but telling them if you do A, this can happen. If you do B, this can happen. If you do C, this can happen. They need some sort of a guidance. People like to make their own decision. They don't want to give their money to someone and then that person is going to charge them 1% of the balance as a fee, and there's no expectation as to what that person can do for them. When you hand that money over, there's no expectation. They say, we're going to do our best to manage your money. We're going to charge you a 1% fee. And if I don't make any money, you can terminate the agreement and I give you what's left.
And does the government say that in order to do what you do, that you have to check a certain box or get a certain certification? Is there any framework around
I
that, or is it
I
pretty loose?
I have researched other people who do financial counseling, and they do not have any type of certification or credentials. And I'll give you two perfect examples. You've heard of Warren Buffett,
Sure.
right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And he gives financial advice. Well, he did. He's really retired now,
Yeah, I
but
was like, he didn't pass, did he? I didn't see the name. I know
no,
Charlie.
no,
I know Charlie
he
Unger has passed, but yeah,
Yeah, Unger passed away.
yeah,
Charlie Unger passed away. But Warren Buffett just retired. He handed it over. I don't know if he handed it over to his son or someone, but he was giving financial advice all the time. I used to watch him on CNBC. He doesn't have any credentials,
yeah.
none.
Well,
And then,
he has that Oracle credential, but that's hard to get. The
yeah,
Oracle of Omaha credential, but anyway.
and also you've heard of Susie Orman,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She is famous. She does all these financial seminars on television. She writes books. She's everywhere. She does not have any financial credentials to provide financial advice.
Right, right. You're
And
essentially choosing a financial counselor based on what is their track record. And saying that you are a TSP millionaire is not insignificant, and it doesn't it's not a braggadocious thing to say. It's a way of saying there's some street cred there, you know?
I hate to say it, I'm actually a TSP multimillionaire.
Oh, good for
So
you.
that's one credential
Yeah,
that I I'm investing in the TSP.
yeah,
Most people who are trying to acquire federal employees' TSP balance to manage it are not investing in the TSP. Probably none of them are.
yeah.
They are not federal employees. They're not investing in the TSP. So there's no connection there with that employee. The other thing is that I I was a federal employee. I went through the federal retirement process. I started out as a CSRS employee. I was transferred to a FERS employee, and I have a FERS annuity that I receive. I also receive Social Security. So I have been through it all,
Right.
and I know what it's like to fill out that 14-page federal retirement application. It's 14 pages.
Wow. Yeah.
It's not easy to fill that out. If anyone thinks that they're going to retire a week before their end date, they really have to reconsider it, because it's going to take you more than a week to gather all the documents and to answer all the questions correctly. Sure, you could retire, but you're losing out on money when you don't properly answer the questions in the retirement application. It's so critical, so critical.
So, I think about folks now, and I've interviewed at least one person already on the podcast that's kind of going to the financial services industry, more in the real estate side, I would say. But for you, in terms of just branching out, so going back to 2019, which is when you started, and you're still an employee there, you retired in 22, right? For somebody who's just about to take the next steps, what did you do? What did you do first? Did you establish a legal framework, a company name, the website? What were your first concrete steps to get up and running?
Excellent. Well, the very first thing I had to do was to notify my federal agency that I had a part-time business.
Beautiful.
Uh,
I'm so glad.
I
See, and that shows your street cred right there, because everybody involved in ethics is gonna know. Yep, he's a Fed,
yeah.
because you gotta handle that carefully.
I worked for the Inspector General's office,
Yeah,
and
all the more so.
the ethics are very strict, and I filled out one-page paperwork. I had to submit it to the coordinator in Washington, or maybe I first submitted it to my supervisor, and she submitted it up to headquarters. But I went through the chain of command, and my supervisor's like, got 10 questions. Like, what are you doing? Trying to get some information for herself. But anyway, I got a call from the headquarters, and they said, no problem, approved. So that's the very first thing. You have to have approval from your agency that you have part-time employment or any
And
employment.
and it sounds like I mean, I'm certainly not an attorney, but this litmus test is really, really important, and I'm getting you a little rusty on it. But there's certainly statutes about not using your federal employment, your federal position for personal gain, for example. And on the surface, you could say, well, Abe was doing kind of financial stuff in the government. What, in your view, why did you pass the litmus test that that was not leveraging federal employment for personal gain?
So that only happened to me several times during my federal career. You have to be careful with conflict of interest. I remember when I was working at Department of Justice, one of those whistleblower cases came across my desk, and I looked at the title of the company, and I went down. I told the federal prosecutor, I can't work on this. And he says, why not? I said, my wife works there.
Oh, yeah.
So, you have to follow the conflict of interest situations. And a lot of people ignore those things. I am not one to ignore it because it's not worth.
It's
Why
not
should I
worth it.
ignore it? It's not worth it.
No, don't do
Uh,
that, folks. Publicly, I want to say, don't ignore that.
yeah, it's not worth it. You get
Yeah.
more headache for not letting them know. Uh, I mean, for not letting them know, they come down on you so hard. Why didn't you let us know you have a business? What was the problem? What are you trying to hide? I went through I had a top secret security clearance, and I had to fill that out every 5 years. And they would delve into my personal life, talk to my neighbors, financial questions. So I was used to that. And any type of conflict of interest in any type of investigation, I always brought it to someone's attention. Now, when I started my business when I was at the Postal Service Inspector General. I'm doing large scale, multi-million dollar investigations. My work with my company had nothing to do with any of those companies, employees, or anything. Anything.
So you've got now this clean bill of health from your organization. Or like, yeah, no problem. And now where do you go from there?
Okay, so where do I go from there? So I was trying to figure out how am I going to communicate with these people. I needed a website. I was working on that, but at the same time, I was getting clients. So I would deal with them over the phone, and then I was using Skype. And then
That brings back some memories.
I did have some clients that I met in person at Starbucks. Um, so I was trying to figure all that out. How do I meet my clients? How do my clients find me? I was on Federal News Network. I was on I was in Fed Week. I was on several other media platforms. People were getting to know my name, and I was trying to develop my website. It took me, I think maybe the following year or that year, I developed the website. And I needed a way for people to contact me, even with a question. Hey, I got a question. Can you help me out? Yeah, no problem. Or,
Okay. The website.
yeah, the website is crucial. And then I
And
needed
that
some
and that
sort of
and that
bookkeeping. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, sorry to jump in. The even the website can be a stumbling block for some. And depending on when you started, 2019, you're probably pretty safe. But any products that helped you there? Did you do it yourself? What made it easy, and or did you hire somebody to do it?
So I first tried Wix, Wix.
Oh, sure.
You know, I'm good, but I'm not that good in developing my
Okay.
own website on Wix. I mean, I got
Okay.
something put together in the beginning. It just wasn't what I needed. I wasn't
Yeah.
getting enough out of that website. So then I started talking to some marketing people. I belonged to a marketing network group or a business network group, and I spoke to someone, and he said WordPress. You got to try
Mm,
WordPress. So I looked into it and I actually developed my own website on WordPress. It took me about a month, a month of my own time,
Yeah.
uh, putting 3, 4 hours here and there during a month. And I got a website that was workable. It was a workable website. And I don't think I've changed it much since then.
Wow. So
And
you're still WordPress today?
WordPress, I still have it. And I
Wow.
actually am being
Okay.
reminded to renew my membership in WordPress.
Ah, fair enough. Okay. All right.
So that was critical to get up and running. And I actually tried to hire a friend of my daughter's to improve the website. There are many tools out there for improving the website. So that when you're doing a search in Google, your name comes up. My name comes up usually the fourth name that pops up is me,
Not
or
bad.
depending on
But
how you're
under what
doing that
search?
search.
Yeah. What would that search be? TSP advisor?
Yeah,
That's
TXP
what I type.
Expert or TSP FERS or
Okay.
TSP Financial Advisor or
Right.
FERS Financial Advisor. And sometimes my name would be the first one that pop up, depending on the word search. But I had friends of mine that would contact me and they'd say, "Abe, you're number 4. Number 4 is good. I'm still on that first page."
Yeah. The first page
And the
matters.
first 3 are usually very expensive companies. So I felt that being number 4 is good. It's not a gold, silver, or bronze, but at least it's a good place to be on that first
You're a
page. I'm
contender.
a
You're still a
contender.
contender.
I'm a
Exactly.
contender. So I felt that was needed, but I think my website looks pretty good for what I need. And
Yeah.
I'm not running transactions through it. I get my financial payments directly from the client.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm not, using the website for any type of financial work.
So at this point, then you got the clean bill of health, you got the website up, and it sounds like people are already contacting you anyway, but now you needed a place to be more visible more broadly. And now are you sort of triaging the list of prospects, so to speak, and just kind of going through the list and starting to roll? Or were there other systems and processes you had to get in place, disclosures, or releases of liability, anything like that that you knew you would need from clients before you even engaged with them professionally?
So I usually go through that with them when I meet with them. I go over
Right,
there's the confidentiality. I'm not going to use your name or personal story in any way. I usually through that with the client when I meet them. Um,
right.
Everything pretty much is on my website as far as my background, my testimonials, and my fees and my services. So, what I'm trying to do is uh, provide as much information to a potential client so they're not contacting me saying, what are your fees? They all ask that. What are your fees? Well, these are my fees, and they're also listed on my website. I actually went up slightly on my fee in January, but it was just a very minor increase. Uh,
Yeah. Well, everything's going up these days.
yeah.
It truly seems like. Out of curiosity, on the confidentiality, did you draw that up yourself? Did you hire an attorney? AI was probably not where it is now. How did you even draft that up?
No, it's a verbal understanding that I have with them, and I feel that I don't know if I need more than that at this time. I mean, I have hired an attorney to help me with the legal stuff, and what he did say is you've got to go with a LLC on your business for legal.
Okay, so you're a
Yeah,
limited
yeah,
liability
limited
corporation. Okay.
liability. I have uh, I have liability insurance. Um, so I have those two things covered. And again, I am not handling anyone's money. I don't even
Right.
want to see their paperwork.
Mm, hmm.
Uh, when they meet with me, they basically tell me, what's your balance in your TSP? How much do you make for a
Mm,
salary? I don't want to see their government documents because when they email it to me, I don't want it to go to the wrong place. And they don't redact the information of their employee numbers and social security numbers. So it's best not to send me anything. If you have
right, right,
something to tell me, just tell me. I'll make a note of
right.
it, and then I'll work with that information. But I strongly tell the client right up front, do not send me any personal information, personal documents. So that kind
Good
of
advice.
takes care of that financial
That issue.
disclosure type issue.
So, so you've now done three things. Now you've got your LLC established, and you started to dovetail into something else that I find fascinating. Just because I guess I'm nerdy like that, but it was bookkeeping. I mean, that's another thing that can be daunting. Not just the bookkeeping itself, but the issuing of the invoices or the taking of payment. How do you transact in a digital age? How do you deal with taxes?
Yes.
Yeah, what have you found helpful on that front? Products, approaches? Yeah, love to
So
hear.
I am an accountant, and
Oh, well, that helps.
uh,
You have a you have a leg up already.
I said, look, I've got to make this simple. I'm a one man operation. I answer the phone. I deal with the client one on one. I'm not passing them off to another person like a broker. Uh, I do all the paperwork myself. I do give a client a work product, a spreadsheet to show them everything they need regarding their federal retirement or TSP. I do give them a receipt, and I am a one man operation. So, what I do is I basically just take the information from the emails and I have a log on a spreadsheet of all my clients, the name, the date, the service, and how much I charged them or what they paid me. And then um, sometimes people they change their mind. They make an appointment, then they say, I'm not ready, or they change their mind altogether. So what I do is I remove them from the list and I may contact them a month or 2 months later to see if they want to connect with me and still need the service or reschedule.
Right.
And that's basically how I do it. I keep it very simple with a spreadsheet. Now, I take all my income and expenses. I also put my expenses on my spreadsheet. Like if I have my WordPress um, membership, I'll record that, the date that it hit my credit card. If I use
Yep.
TurboTax, when did I purchase the TurboTax and the expense? And then I use my income and expenses and I do it on my, believe it's my Schedule E on my tax return. Schedule Schedule E. Don't I hope I didn't make a mistake with that. But it's a business income form on my uh, tax return is where I do it, and that reminds me I've got to work on that. Uh,
It is that time
yeah,
of
that
year.
time of year, but very simple for me because I my goal was to keep my expenses as low as possible because when I do that, I don't have to charge my clients that much.
So even if you're issuing an invoice, are you just doing that by email? So nothing like QuickBooks or anything
No,
to issue an
I
invoice.
do
Just a
the receipt I wrote one this morning. I do the receipt in Microsoft Word. I have a template
Okay.
in Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
I crank it out in about 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes. I attach it to an email with the final spreadsheet that I owe the client. I attach
Right.
my business card and I write my comments regarding our discussions, and boom, that's it.
Wow.
You know,
What would you say is the most sophisticated piece of technology you use to run your business?
well, I think the
Because you keep it
I
simple.
keep it very simple, and I keep a uh, a financial copy of all my clients' work products, all their
Yeah.
receipts, and I keep their emails. I print them out and I put them in a file. But the most sophisticated piece of technology that I have is Zoom. Zoom
Yeah.
really just caused my business to explode to
Hmm.
in a good way to it really took off when I had Zoom. I had a client who was actually uh, 4 homes away from me in my neighborhood, 4 homes away from me, a client, not a federal employee. And she wanted to hire me for some financial advice. I said, fine. If I go over to their house, it's a lot of chit chat before we start, a lot of chit chat afterwards, you know, have another cup of coffee, maybe a glass of wine. No, I was trying to eliminate all of that. And I said, look, you've got to pay me ahead of time. And then we'll do the whole session on Zoom. And when I hear your last question, that's the end of the session.
There you
And
go. Keep it official.
keep it as efficient and easy as possible. Um,
Hmm.
and that is the best piece of technology that I have that just caused my business to take off.
And I tell you, the reason I asked that question and the reason I asked the question about the website is because folks, including myself, sometimes can have the preconceived notion that I've got to get the next best, latest, and greatest thing in order to launch my business or improve my business. And I have to do Wix or I have to do Shopify or I have to do QuickBooks or, get an ERP system or, go crazy. And you're living proof that you don't. And you can keep things simple and still make things work. And I like that.
Yeah,
It's
well,
good.
I'm fortunate that, I'm not mailing things out. I'm
Yeah.
not building anything. I never have a client come to my home, uh,
Mm.
which, I was notified by the city that I live in. You need a special occupancy license if you're running a business out of your home. I said, wait a second, based on my reading of the government city policy, I don't have anybody coming to my home. I have
Oh,
no
interesting.
clients coming to my home, so I don't have to comply with the wheelchair access. I don't have to comply
Oh, right.
with
ADA
yeah,
and all that.
I
Yeah.
couldn't think of it off the top of my head,
Yeah.
ADA. I don't have to comply with anything regarding what you're telling me. So unless I'm not reading the city ordinance correctly, I want to comply. Just tell me if I'm misunderstanding something. Never heard back from them.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
never
Well, I
have,
mean, by their logic, if they take it to that extent, every teleworker in your state would have to comply.
yeah, I'm not making anything. I don't have people coming to my home. Um, I'm not generating a lot of things that require assistance through other products, like keeping track of items shipped and accounts receivable. I keep everything simple. The client has to pay me before I meet them. I unfortunately, in the beginning of my business, I provided a service and the client never paid me.
That's
Yeah.
sad. Don't do that either, folks. Just be a good human. Just be a good human.
Yeah, it wasn't very
Um,
much either. It was sad, but
it still matters
yeah.
though, symbolically it's huge though, isn't it? It just
It
really is.
well, it changed my way of thinking of how I'm going to have to run this business because I can't allow this to happen all the time.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
and it's never been an issue that the client pays me ahead of time, and they just have to pay me the
Yeah.
day before. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's and another small tidbit about that. I use Venmo and Zelle to get paid.
Oh, I wanted to get to that. Thank you. So those are your preferred payment methods?
Yeah, I have used PayPal in the past, but
Okay.
I use Zelle and Venmo. But I have had several clients, even this year, that required to mail out a personal check.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm like,
So they're still out
they're
there.
still out there. And what I
Okay.
always tell the client is no problem.
Yeah.
But I need to have the check clear before we set up the appointment. So
Right. Right.
I try to schedule it far ahead so that can happen. They can mail it to me, it clears the bank, and then no problem. Uh, but yeah, there's still a couple people out there using personal checks. Um,
Yeah, if you still worked for the federal government, that would be one thing. Although even the IRS, I think as of this year, speaking of tax season, I think there's an electronic payment mandate even from the IRS these days.
what was amazing is several of these people, have you know top management positions where they are, so they're using a lot of technology in
Right.
the workplace, but they still are uncomfortable about making a online payment.
Well,
Yeah.
and I respect the risk aversion at some
Yeah.
level too. I mean, you never know. It's a fine balance, and I think we've all been there. Is this AI thing here to stay? And well, listen, let
Yeah.
me maybe not to totally wrap up just yet, but kind of on a gentle downslope here. Would love to pick your brain on, again, when you start out on your own, and again, the whole ethos of this podcast is to encourage folks that are no longer in the federal government that if you're thinking about doing it, and going out on your own, you can, and you don't have to walk the road alone. You can listen to folks like Abe that have done this already. There's a lot of advice out there, and when you go out, and I'm going to start with the negative and end on the positive, Abe. What what was and you may have just addressed it in this last little segment here, but what was the toughest mistake you made or toughest lesson you had to learn, followed by what is something you absolutely feel like you did right and you're really proud of?
Well, the toughest, it wasn't a mistake. Everything is a learning process.
Love it. Yeah.
I wasn't trying to copy someone else's business model and I'm going to follow it and I do A, B, and C. No, I mean, I did some research and I started out doing things. Uh, but for me, I think it was a, a tough thing to handle when one of my clients didn't pay me. And the client was very sincere and they actually worked in the White House. Not a political
Oh,
uh, person, but just
yeah.
an employee in the White House. And
Well,
they were from Maryland, and it was just a few $100s. And they just didn't pay me. They didn't answer my emails. And it was very frustrating, but it was a learning process for me. I've got to learn, I've got to
hmm
learn. And, my attorney told me, there are ways to get around this. You could hold them liable, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't worth for me to do it. I'd be spending more time and money chasing those few $100s. So it's just something that I had to endure and just move on. Now, what was the other half of the question? Something that
Well,
I
the other half is the good thing. What did you do really well that you'd absolutely repeat and you feel like you got it right?
I I think what I did well was I put myself out there on every media platform that people wanted me, whether it was a short article or a podcast. And I felt this is a good thing for people to learn. People are listening to you, right? And they're going to go, oh, wow, I didn't know this guy existed. I didn't know that Federal News Network exists. I've got to start listening to Federal News Network. I've got to go to this guy's website. I archive all my podcasts and all my interviews and articles, and let me read up on this guy. And I think putting myself out there uh, in any way, shape, or form was a good thing for me. Uh, it shows that I care about federal employees. I want to help them, and people have used me. I've had over 300 clients in the past,
Wow.
and I think that is something that I'm very happy with. That I put myself out there.
So thinking about this wave of what I hope to be entrepreneurs that are coming from this era of maybe transitioning out of federal employment, what's one piece of advice you would give to somebody who is about to venture out on their own and start their own
I
business?
think
What is that key
a
takeaway you'd like to
person
offer?
that wants to start their own business, regardless of what it is, you've got to be flexible. You got to be flexible. You have to be flexible in
Mm,
dealing with the problems that you're going to encounter, whether you have a client that needs to send you a personal check in the mail, you have to say, no problem. Nothing should be a problem, unless
mm,
it's something that you just can't do. But no problem. You want to send me a personal check?
yeah,
Send it to me. You're in a time zone that's
love it.
12 hours away. No problem. We're going to figure it out. Uh, you have to be flexible. Uh, and if something is not
Mm,
working, you need to try to fix it, whether it's your website, whether it's software program, whatever the problem is, you need to think about it and you need to find a solution, whether you have to hire a professional or whether you can figure it out yourself. But you need to be flexible. I think that is the biggest, biggest thing that I could tell someone. You need to be like Gumby. Gumby, no matter what you do to Gumby, he's smiling. You twist his
oh,
arm,
absolutely.
his leg, Gumby is always smiling. You
Right.
you have to be like Gumby. Yeah.
Gumby wins. You know, that is such a great life lesson in general too, to the extent that I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to just share a brief vignette because I was talking to my own kids about that one time. Which do you think is stronger? I literally took them outside. Which do you think is stronger? This branch that's really hard, right? And it's been around for a while, or this branch that's kind of brand new, right? And they're like, well, definitely the one that's hard. And I'm like, well, I handed it to him. And I said, well, break it and just snap, It's like, all right, now
Yeah.
now snap this one. The really twisty, they can't snap it, the flexible. It's like, guys, that is an illustration of flexibility. It is one of the greatest strengths I believe you can have in life. And guys, we did not plan this, but I
Thank
believed
you.
that long before I even
Brilliant
met Abe. I'll
brilliant
tell you that.
minds think
So
alike.
excellent advice.
Yeah.
I'll give you the brilliance. I'll let others decide on me. My kids might say something different, but depending on the day. And you mentioned you'll allow anybody to ask you one
You can
one
ask me as
financial
many as you
question. Can
want.
I ask you one right here on the podcast? Nah, that no, don't want to take advantage of it, but just one would be, I suspect most folks in the audience either uh, current employees or prior employees, and most likely, I would say this is just a guess, not based on data. I would guess they still have their TSP. If you still have your TSP right now, what's one piece of advice you'd say this is the best thing you can do right now
So,
with those assets?
there's a lot of available information on the TSP website. There's information that goes back 35 years. I've been an investor since 1988 in the TSP. So, my best tip that I could tell you or anyone is invest as aggressively as you can tolerate. Okay. Some people don't want to ride the TSP roller coaster. Some people have trouble sleeping at night. They wake up, oh my God, I'm investing too aggressively. Well, if you're investing too aggressively, then you need to change your investment mix to be a little more conservative. But if you can handle the risk, invest as aggressively as you can tolerate in the TSP. It will pay off. It will. I guarantee it will pay off. You know, I mean, anything can happen. Aliens can come and wipe us out. Notwithstanding that, if the financial markets continue the way they are, and people always, feel the sword of Damocles is over their head, the market is going to crash. I experienced so many crashes and things since 1988. So just investors,
Yeah, you've
everything,
probably been through savings and loan, you've been through internet
everything.
bubble,
I
you've
could
been through
name them
mortgage
all.
crisis,
I can
COVID,
name
to
them
name a
all.
few, right
I don't
there.
want to bore you with
Yeah,
it, but I can name them
yeah,
all going back to
yeah.
1988. Uh, yeah,
So invest as aggressively as you can. And I will say this again, speaking as somebody who, Abe and I have not known each
right.
other that long, but this isn't the first time I've heard that. I have known, I think, two other TSP millionaires. One of them, I don't think they knew I knew, but I guess the word was kind of out. And another person that he was on my team and retired and kind of confided that. Same thing. He said, I've been investing as aggressively as I can from as early as I
Right.
could, because again, time horizon is huge in the investing world. And the longer time you
So
have, the more
if I
time you have
could
to ride
tell a
out those
very short
waves.
story, I had a client last night, um, just retired from the federal government in December, and they are a TSP millionaire, and they had a TSP consultation with me. What do I do now that I'm retired? So I explained to them that there's no reason you can't be a TSP multimillionaire before you reach required minimum distributions, where you have to start taking the money out of the TSP. I said, I am going to show you that you can be a TSP millionaire and multimillionaire. I'm sorry, multimillionaire. And it's easily for them to achieve that. And if they continue investing aggressively, even to age 73, I think they have a chance of being a 3-time TSP millionaire if they can tolerate it. If they can tolerate it.
Wow.
The
Wow.
client told me they were going to
Yeah.
take my suggestion
Yeah.
right away, and they will be a TSP
Mm,
multimillionaire. So you know,
that's amazing. And by, I think you're saying, but I want to be explicit, by reinvesting,
right,
continuing to
right.
invest in the
Even
TSP,
though
not in
you're a
other
federal
outside investments, right?
retiree,
Yeah.
you could still invest aggressively, aggressively. And there are a variety of ways of
Right.
investing aggressively. I don't want
Right.
to, make it a financial session here. Yeah, full session, but you can do it. And if you can't tolerate it, you can invest conservatively and protect your TSP million and grow it significantly so you are above inflation. But yeah, you can always go to the next level. Yeah, it's wonderful. I commended this person for being a TSP millionaire. Pat yourself on the back. It's an amazing goal that you have achieved as a federal employee, but you're still young
Yeah.
enough that you can reach
Yeah.
to be a multimillionaire in the TSP. There's no reason you can't.
Uh, Out of
57.
curiosity, were
They
they in their
they met
40s,
their
50s,
minimum
60s?
retirement age,
Wow. Okay.
57, and retired at
Yeah.
age 57, minimum retirement
Uh-huh.
age, 30 plus years. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, goodness. Well, listen, Abe, I can't thank you enough for spending the time. It was a delight. Got a few laughs in as well, some good stories. I would love to be able to have others plug in as well and to be able to contact you. That we want to give you an open door to advertise yourself too. Where can people find you on the web? What's the best way to contact you? All that good
So
stuff.
the
Please
best
feel
way
free
to
to give a
reach
shout out
me
there.
is my last name, Grungold, GRUNGOLD.com. That is you could even do a Google
Perfect.
search of Abraham TSP, and I come right up. My website comes up number one listing.
Awesome.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
That is amazing. No, thank you. Thank you so very much. And, we'll put that in the show notes as well with a hyperlink. And, I just really, on behalf of folks like all of us, former feds, and the fact that, your heart's wanting to make it easy to get that advice for this niche market at some level and keeping costs down. I know everybody appreciates that. Well, still, compensating you fairly and, in the fair market economy. Just thank you so much again for joining us. We wish you the very best and,
Sure,
on to the next
Brandon.
couple million for
I'm
you and
not in
everybody
it to
else as well.
make a lot of money. I'm in it to really help every federal employee to have a wonderful retirement and to enjoy retirement like I'm enjoying it. That is my goal, to help every federal employee. And I really appreciate you having me on today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All
Thank
right,
you.
we'll be in touch and we'll talk soon. Hey, thanks for being with us today on Fed Renaissance. And remember, don't like or subscribe, at least not until you've checked out episode 2.